In this video, we'll be showing you how to create circle skirts. Circle skirts are a way of creating a skirt style and a specific amount of fullness that is not based on the skirt block or on draping necessarily. So we're going to start by showing you the three styles: the quarter circle skirt, the half circle and the full circle skirt. So we're going to use a little bit of maths to find what the radius is of our circle, and then decide the length of the skirt, draw that on, and then finish them off with some seam allowances. So the circle that we're talking about when we talk about the skirt is the circle of the waist length and then the corresponding circle of the length of the hem. So the quarter circle skirt is using the quarter of a circle to create the skirt shape, and this has the least amount of flare. On the body it looks a little bit like a simple A-line shape. The half circle skirt, so this kind of shape that we're creating a skirt out of, looks a lot fuller, has a lot more movement. And the full circle skirt, using the full circle with the waist in the center of the skirt, has the most volume. You can also add circles together and use multiple circles to create even more volume. We'll just start by showing you the three circles, the three skirts now. Okay, starting with the quarter circle, we need to create a large right angle at the end of the paper. I'm going to use my right angle ruler. Okay, now we need to calculate the measurements that we're going to use. So for the quarter circle skirt, the mathematical formula is the radius, so the point from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle is the number that we need to calculate. To find the radius of a quarter circle skirt, that is the waist measurement divided by 1.5. So our waist measurement that we'll be using today is 70 centimeters. So 70 divided by 1.5 equals 46.6. So the first thing that we do is mark from the center 46.6. to here. And now we're going to draw that arc in over to here. So now we need to use our tape measure with a stiletto or an awl, and we need a hole in the end of the tape measure. I don't know if you can see mine, there's no hole, but there is this metal plate. So what I'm going to do is use my awl to poke a hole in the end of it so that I can use that to put my pen or pencil in. Now placing that hole on the mark that you've made, that's looking a little bit stuck. And then using your stiletto, pin down the center of the tape measure right in that corner here with the awl or the stiletto. Place your pen or pencil in the end, and then holding it tight, so not loose so that you get a wobbly line, but tight so that you get a strong straight line. Swing the tape measure up to the end like that. This will be our waist measurement. So we need to find the center point here, and to do that you can either measure along here with your tape measure to mark that halfway point, or you can do a little trick and just fold the paper. So I'm going to fold it to place this point on top of this point, just to mark that half. I don't need to fold the whole way. And this point here will be the center front of my waist. And I'll mark that center front in. Okay. The next step is to decide on the length of the skirt. Now we're going to make our skirt 45 centimeters. I'll just double check I've got enough space up here. If you don't have enough paper, you can tape a little bit extra on. Yep, and I've got just enough to take it to 45. So I'll extend my line up here. So this measurement is the length of the skirt. So I'm going to measure along here 45 centimetres. And mark that position. And now we're going to repeat the same process using the tape measure and the stiletto. So I'm placing the hole over the mark at the hem of the skirt. Getting my awl, pinning the awl right in the centre of that corner and the centre of the tape measure. Placing the pencil in, and I've got it a little bit too long, so I'm going to shorten it. Okay, now I've got it over the right point, and we do the same thing, holding the tape measure taut and swinging around. To the end. And now we are very close to completing our pattern. So if our waist measurement is 70 centimetres, this is the centre front, and these will be the centre backs. We need to find the exact position of the centre back, so we're measuring 35 centimetres from the centre front, and best to use your tape measure because it's a curving line to find the accurate centre back. And that's here. And I'm measuring around 35. And that's here. Now that you have these points for the centre back, just mark the centre back in. Draw a parallel line, so parallel with your original line. And then mark on your 1.2 seam allowance for the centre back. Now, if I was using pencil in the beginning, I would have rubbed this line out. So I'm just going to cross it out and we'll cut it off later. And we'll mark 15 centimetres down, double notch, to indicate that this is the centre back. Now we need to do the same on the centre back over here. So 12 mils seam allowance, crossing out this original line, and 15 centimetres down, marking a double notch, about 2 centimetres apart for the double notch. We have our centre back seam allowance. We now need to place on it our waist seam allowance and our hem. So I'm going to do 1.2 all around here again for the waist. And just turning it gently so that we get a nice smooth curve on our seam allowance that's following the line of the waist. Okay, now we do the same thing for the hem. Again, there's two ways that we can do this hem. We can add it like I did manually. The other way that we can do is go back to using our tape measure. So we'll try that on the hem. So I'm going to give it 12 mils on the hem. So holding the hole over the mark that I've made. Now we'll see how accurate this is. Sometimes if you're a little bit inaccurate, then the seam allowance won't be even. So I'll just see how we go. That's not too bad. I'm missing a little bit of paper on that corner. Okay, so that's pretty good. We've got our centre back marked, our centre front. Now for our grain line, we'll take this folded line down here. So now we're folding it so that it's sitting in half. And we'll transfer this grain line. And the labelling. Name, garment, piece, and the cutting instruction for this will be cut one self, size 10, 1 of 1. So all we have left to do now is to cut this out, and we've completed it. So now we're going to create the half circle skirt. I've started off by drawing a line pretty much from edge to edge of my paper. I want to find the center, so I'm just going to fold it in half, make sure my lines are lined up nicely, and then fold it all the way up. Open it up, and now I've got my center marked, center here as well, and I'll just put a little mark for the center. Now we need to calculate the radius of our half circle skirt. If our measurement for the finished waist is 70 centimetres, the radius will be the waist divided by 3. So 70 centimetres divided by 3 is 23.3. So this is our first measurement that we're going to mark from the centre. 23.3. 23.3. Now, as you can see, I'm using pens again. The reason I'm using pens is to make it easier for you guys to see. When you're doing any pattern making, whether it's at home or at UTS, you'll always be using your pencils. So taking the tape, we're going to repeat the same process. So placing the hole over the mark, the 23 centimetre mark, the centre, holding it taut and placing the centre of the tape measure on the centre mark of our paper. And then anchoring it with an awl or a stiletto, placing the pen or the pencil in, and then swinging it around nice and tight all the way to the other side. So automatically with my fold line, I've got the centre front marked of the skirt. Now we're going to come around here and find our centre back positions. So 70 centimetres for the full waist, which means from centre front to the centre back will be 35 centimetres. Remember that when you're measuring your waist measurement, to measure along the stitching line, so 35 centimetres to here, and not along the seam. So measure whether or not you've got your seam added, you always measure along the stitching line. And so 35 again on the other side. Looks like we're coming very close to the position of our original line for the seam allowance. So drawing along here the centre back stitching line. And I can see that that's pretty much 1.2, so I'm going to draw it back on So this is 1.2, so now we have our seam allowance. It doesn't always work out like that. It depends on the slight variations in the thickness of the pen, in the length of the waist. So don't worry if yours isn't matching up exactly with your original lines. Okay, and now I'm popping on the 12 mils. Great. Got my centre back marked, and 15 centimetres down I'm going to put my double notches to indicate that it's the centre back. So 15 for the first notch and 17 for the second. 15 and then 17. Now we need to find the hem of the skirt. So let's see what space we have on our paper. So we're going to take our skirt to 35 centimetres, which is here. So holding again the hole on the tape measure over the end, the mark that you've created for the hem, pulling it taut and anchoring it down in the centre, and then swinging it around all the way around to the other side. Now we have our centre back, we have our hem, we need to place our seam allowance on the waist and the hem allowance. So I'm going to measure 1.2 and hope that this turns out. So the hole is over the line for the seam allowance. I'm placing the centre of the tape measure in the centre of our line. Okay, and that's looking pretty parallel. So here is our centre front notch, centre back notch. Our grain line will be following this fold line here. Let's add on the hem, another 12 mils. Placing the hole over the marking, holding the tape measure taut, and then anchoring the centre of the tape measure in the centre of the page. Okie dokie, we're finishing it off with our labelling. Name, half circle skirt, the piece is the skirt, size 10, cut 1 self, 1 of 1. Now the other information that will be handy for you to have on your half, quarter and full circle skirts is a position for the side seam. Now the side seam is very simple to find. We will just have a mark that is halfway between the centre back and the centre front. So to find that position, we place the centre back on top of the centre front, fold it, and you get your side seam marking. And the same for the other side. So placing the centre front, the centre back, not the seam, but the stitching line. Like this. And now our pattern is ready to cut out. I will do the full circle skirt now. So I'm going to start by folding my page in half, to get a good position for the line. And I'm going to fold it in half the other way as well so that I can get the center of this line marked. Okay, so this is the center of our page, the point from which we will mark our circle for the waist. Now the formula for the full circle skirt is your waist measurement. The radius for the circle equals your waist divided by 6. So if our waist is 70 centimeters, the final measurement for the radius will be 11.6. So starting at the center, we're using the same technique. I'm measuring 11.6 from the center. 11.6. Placing the hole over the mark and the stiletto over the center of the page. We're going to swing this all the way around. Like that. Now we are going to decide the length of the skirt. It doesn't really matter whether we go for the length or do the notching and find the center back. So the length of this skirt, let's give it, what can we fit on our page? We'll give it 45 centimeters. No, let's give it 40 centimeters, that'll be more comfortable. Okay, so I'm marking from the waist measurement to the hem, 40 centimeters. Placing it over the mark, making sure the paper and the tape measure are nice and flat, and then anchoring it down in the center. This is where I might need to grow longer arms. Sometimes you'll find if you're redoing something or creating multiple circles, you'll find that the hole starts getting big in the center and then the tape measure will start to move around. So that's just something to watch out for when you're creating your circles. Okay, now we're going to call this point here the center front. And then we're going to measure around 35 centimeters to find the center back position. And now measuring from the other side. And now we're here, I can see again that we're very close to this position, but we've got just enough room to put our seam allowance for both the centre backs. So I'm going to rule this parallel line. Oops, that's not very parallel. Okay, and measuring down 15 centimeters for our double notches. So this line up here, I'll just draw a little pair of scissors on it so we're clear that we're cutting up here. So once we've cut around created our waist, seam allowance, and our hem allowance will also be cutting up here. At this point, if your measurement has finished and you don't have enough room for your seam allowance, you'll just need to make your waist measurement fractionally bigger by 1 or 2 millimeters to give yourself enough room for that seam allowance. So I'm going to measure around here or fold to get my side seam position. So placing the center back on the center front. And it's there, and I swing this side around to get the other side. So we have our side seam. Okay, now I'm ready to put my seam allowance on the waist. $12 mils. Anchoring it right in the center of the tape measure and the paper. Oops. Marking on my notches. I can mark my grain line on as well. Now I'll put the seam allowance all the way around, another 12 mils. Okay, I might need to re-anchor. Okie dokie, we can finish the labelling and then cut it out. So always 6 pieces of information: name, garment, full circle skirt, size 10, cut 1 self, 1 of 1. Okay. I will cut them out and show you at the end of this video. Okay, here we have our quarter circle, half circle and full circle skirts all cut out and ready to roll. I've indicated all of the notching with my little notch arrows rather than physically notching it because they're easier for you guys to see. We've got our center front, side seams and center back marked on all of them, and we've got our completed labelling and hem.